Have you ever found yourself at like 11:30 at night just doom scrolling through social media, totally obsessing over some celebrity's cryptic post?
Oh, absolutely.
Or maybe you're sitting on your couch and you suddenly feel like you're just completely failing at life, all because someone else on your feed posted about, I don't know, getting a massive promotion.
Yeah, that classic comparison trap.
Exactly. And you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, and you're just wondering, like, why am I like this?
Hmm.
Well, the good news is you aren't broken.
No, not at all.
Your brain is basically just running this ancient survival software in a very modern digital world. So today we are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating stack of insights drawn from Amanda Montell's The Age of Magical Overthinking.
It's such an incredible source text.
It really is. And our mission today is to figure out exactly why our mental shortcuts are just constantly misfiring and, what you can actually do to regain a little bit of your sanity.
Because it really is, it's kind of the defining paradox of our time, right? We call this the information age. And we sort of expect that having all the data in the world right at our fingertips would make us these perfectly logical beings.
Right, like we should be smarter than ever.
Exactly. But life somehow seems to make less sense the more information we consume. And to understand this, I think we have to start by, forgiving ourselves a little bit.
I love that.
Yeah, because our minds were never designed to be perfectly rational, truth-seeking machines. They're actually what behavioral scientists call resource rational.
Resource rational. Okay, let's break that down because I feel like that fundamentally reframes the whole problem. We usually think of irrationality as a character flaw, but you're saying it's actually an efficiency feature.
Precisely. You have to remember your brain is a biological organ trying to conserve energy. It uses about 20% of your body's calories.
Oh, wow, just in there thinking.
Right. So if it tried to perfectly compute every single piece of data you encounter in a given day, you would literally pass out from exhaustion by breakfast.
Oh my gosh.
So it has to cut corners, it prioritizes resources, it relies heavily on cognitive biases, these really deeply ingrained mental shortcuts, just to make snap judgments that are, good enough to keep you alive.
It's kind of like, okay, picture dropping a handful of Mentos into a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke.
Okay, I can picture that.
The Mentos are these dense, ancient mental shortcuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Designed to react instantly to keep us safe out in the wilderness. And the Diet Coke is the modern internet, just this pressurized 247 stream of infinite data and social comparison.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Thanks. Because individually, the ancient brain and the data stream, they're totally fine on their own. But when that primal instinct meets an endless algorithmic feed, the chemical reaction is just this spectacular, overwhelming explosion of anxiety.
It really is an explosion. And the mechanism behind that is pure evolutionary biology. Like, imagine early humans navigating the wild. The sheer amount of sensory input from the natural world was...
It must have been completely overwhelming.
Totally. So if your brain tried to logically catalog the precise color, the shape, the movement of every single leaf and twig before deciding if there was a predator in the bushes, the processing time would be way too slow.
You'd be eaten while you were busy admiring the foliage.
Exactly. You had to jump to conclusions.
So we basically developed a system that says, rustling bush equals tiger.
Yeah.
Run now, ask questions later.
Yes. Because early brains had finite time, limited memory, and this really distinct craving to make events meaningful enough so we could survive them. We literally evolved to find patterns even when they weren't actually there.
Because the cost of getting it wrong varied so wildly, right?
Exactly. Think about it. A false positive, like running away from the wind, that just costs you a few calories.
Right.
But a false negative, ignoring a tiger because you thought it was the wind, that costs you your life. So you fast forward a few epochs, and the quantity of details we have to process every day has exploded like shrapnel. We literally cannot mull over every data point, so we lean incredibly heavily on those Stone Age cheats.
Which creates this massive irony in how we function today. Because the very shortcuts that kept our ancestors alive are now causing us to vastly underthink complex societal issues, while we simultaneously overthink the most trivial paranoia.
Oh, entirely.
We will comfortably blitz past these hugely complex civic deliberations with just a single black and white opinion.
Yeah.
But we will spend hours, literally hours, agonizing over whether the universe actively hates us because Instagram suggested we follow our toxic ex-boss.
Yes. And you start seeing these mechanisms everywhere in daily life once you understand the biology behind them. Take the sunk cost fallacy, for example.
Oh, I am very familiar with that one.
Most of us are. We usually talk about this in economics, but it completely governs our daily behavior. It's deeply tied to loss aversion, which is our psychological allergy to admitting defeat or losing an investment.
Yeah, it's the reason why, you know, you might find yourself staying in a terrible romantic relationship for years simply because you've already invested so much time into it.
Right.
Or, I mean, on a much lower stakes level, why I will literally force myself to finish all 19 seasons of Grey's Anatomy, even though I lost interest like a decade ago.
But ask yourself why it physically hurts to abandon the show.
Oh, it really does.
Because it's not just a quirky habit. When you abandon a massive time investment, your brain registers it as a loss of resources. And evolutionarily speaking, losing resources feels physically threatening to your survival.
That makes so much sense. My brain would literally rather suffer through a bad situation than admit it wasted precious time.
Exactly.
There's another pattern you highlighted from the sources too, which is proportionality bias.
Yes, that's a big one.
This is the urge to find big cosmic causes for small random events. Like assuming the only reason you found a $20 bill on the sidewalk today is because you let someone merge in traffic yesterday. Like the karma bank finally paid out.
Yeah. Right, because our minds desperately crave harmonious proportions. If there's an effect, we want a cause that feels equally significant.
We want it to make sense.
We need it to make sense. The alternative, that the world is just chaotic, random, and basically meaningless, is deeply unsettling to a brain that absolutely relies on predicting patterns to survive. So we invent these cosmic connections just to feel a sense of control over the unpredictable.
Let me challenge you on that, though.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, wanting to believe in karma or sticking with a medical drama out of stubbornness, those seem like relatively harmless superstitions, don't
Like
they?
a vacuum, maybe?
So why is it actually dangerous when we bring these Stone Age mentalities into the digital age? Like, what's the real threat here?
Well, the danger really arises because these biases don't just apply to our private little habits. They dictate how we treat other human beings, and especially when those judgments are amplified by millions of people on the internet. This brings us to a really powerful mental shortcut called the halo effect. It's the unconscious tendency to assume someone's overall character based on just one single observable trait.
Like assuming that because someone is, incredibly good-looking, they must automatically be smart and funny and morally righteous.
Exactly.
We essentially paint over their entire complicated personality with one big glowing brush.
And historically, this heuristic made perfect sense. I mean, 20,000 years ago, if someone was tall, muscular, and had all their teeth intact, it meant they were a highly capable hunter.
And they hadn't been mauled by a bear or wiped out by disease.
Right, so it was a very safe evolutionary bet to align your family with them. You cast them in this warm, one-dimensional glow, a halo. But today, this primitive shortcut fuels modern stan culture.
Oh, stan culture, yes. For anyone listening who might be unfamiliar, the word is a mashup of stalker and fan.
Right, it's very intense.
It is an intensely parasocial dynamic. And we see this play out constantly with massive pop stars. The source text brings up Taylor Swift, for example, and these wild fan reactions like Ticketgate or Moviegate.
The backlash can be incredible.
It really can. Fans actually turned on her, acting incredibly betrayed when she permanently logged off Tumblr in 2020.
And the underlying mechanism there is expectation and projection. The fans felt, bulldozed because Swift had posted tweets condemning certain political issues in 2020, but then she didn't take her activism further in the specific rigorous ways that they demanded.
Right, they projected this flawless, revolutionary persona onto her.
Exactly.
And the sources point out the sheer contradiction of it. I mean, fans were demanding she tear down the capitalist system while completely ignoring the reality that she is a billionaire pop star whose personal security team literally consists of former special forces.
It's a massive cognitive dissonance.
Totally. They placed her on this impossibly high pedestal, and the moment she didn't perfectly execute their assumed narrative, the adoration just flipped to pure venom. And it's not just her.
Oh, no.
It happens to Beyoncé, too. The Bayhive famously spammed her comments with burger and drumstick emojis just because a highly anticipated announcement she was making on Good Morning America turned out to be that she was adopting a vegan diet.
Right. Instead of announcing a New World tour or pregnancy like they wanted.
Exactly. They were furious.
And this is where we really have to look at the broader cultural shift. Like, why do young adults, particularly those navigating social media, fall so hard into this trap of elevating and then violently destroying celebrities?
Yeah, what is driving that?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, trust in traditional institutions like the government, organized religion, the healthcare system, that trust has plummeted since the 1960s and 70s.
Oh, definitely.
So as that institutional trust eroded, pop stars essentially became our new priests. They became our parental figures.
Wait, so you're saying it's actually like a mothering dynamic. They aren't just fans of the music, they are actively looking for a surrogate parent to tell them the world is okay.
Very much so. Studies actually show that early life isolation, which is highly prevalent for young adults right now, creates severe emotional deficits.
That makes a lot of sense.
So young people who lack positive, real-world stressors or, tangible local mentors, they start projecting these mother roles onto distant media figures. They demand absolute perfection and moral purity.
And when the celebrity inevitably shows a human flaw.
It doesn't just feel like a disappointing album. It feels like a mother betraying her child.
Wow.
In psychology, this inability to hold complex thoughts about a person, dividing them strictly into immaculate saints or disgraced demons, is called splitting.
Now, I know some people listening might be thinking, well, I don't camp out for pop star tickets, so this doesn't apply to me.
Right, but it does.
It absolutely does. Because this isn't just about musicians. Think about a politician you deeply admire, or a tech CEO, or even just an influencer whose lifestyle you follow. You really have to ask yourself, who have you placed on an impossibly high pedestal recently?
That's a vital question.
Because treating people as infallible gods actually strips them of their humanity. It doesn't give them any room to be complex or to, just make normal mistakes.
That's a crucial point. And the lack of grace we extend to public figures online, it inevitably bleeds into how we view our peers and ultimately how we view ourselves.
Oh, man.
If we hold distant strangers to impossible standards, we turn that exact same ruthless lens on our own lives, which leads us right into the sheer anxiety of navigating social media on a daily basis.
Let's follow that thread.
Yeah.
Because the internet isn't just a place to judge celebrities. It's a machine literally engineered to make us judge ourselves against everyone else's highlight reel.
Exactly.
And paradoxically, being this hyper-connected is leading to a really profound sense of isolation.
And a major culprit behind that isolation is something called zero-sum bias.
Okay, what's that?
Well, it actually started as an economic concept. It's the false belief that another person's gain is directly your loss. The intuition that the economy or social status or even happiness is just a singular pie.
And if someone else gets a slice, your brain tells you there is magically less pie available for you.
Exactly.
Even when resources are practically unlimited. The sources call this win-win denial. And I will fully admit to doing this.
I think we all do.
You see a peer or even a total stranger on TikTok succeeding. Maybe they just published a book or bought a beautiful house. And instead of being happy for them, you start panic Googling their accomplishments.
Yes. Looking for the cat.
Exactly. You are desperately looking for a flaw. Maybe they had rich parents, or maybe their book didn't actually sell that well, just to find a way to inflate your own value.
Yeah.
Because their success feels like a direct biological threat to your own existence.
It is an exhausting way to live. And that baseline exhaustion and anxiety, it makes us highly susceptible to manipulation. Researchers actually call this vulnerability conspirituality.
Conspirituality. That's the intersection of conspiracy theories and New Age wellness, right?
Exact.
This is where figures like the manifestation doctor enter the chat.
Right. Because during times of collective trauma, like a global pandemic or extreme economic instability, the wellness industry actively monetizes our proportionality bias.
Wait, remind me how that works here.
Well, remember, if you are sick or poor or suffering, your brain is absolutely desperate for a massive, meaningful reason for it. It wants a big cause for a big effect.
Right.
So these influencers step in. They tell young adults that their unhealed childhood trauma or their lack of high-frequency vibrations is the sole reason for their physical illness or financial ruin.
Wait, I really need to unpack how insidious that is.
Yeah.
Because they wrap it in these gentle pseudotherapy buzzwords.
They do. It sounds very empowering at first.
They tell you that you can just manifest your way out of sickness if you think positively enough. But unlike a traditional tinfoil hat conspiracy theory that says, a secret cabal in the government is out to get you.
This conspiracy therapy blames your own mind for your suffering.
The evil force trying to control you is just you. It's the scammer within.
Exactly. It shifts the locus of control entirely inward. And in doing so, it completely ignores systemic factors like poverty or medical racism or the fact that sometimes random misfortune just happens.
It's just bad luck.
Yes. And it drives isolation because it actively discourages people from seeking licensed medical help or relying on their community. It essentially tells you that your misery is yours alone to fix.
And usually the only way to fix it is by paying a $26 a month subscription to that influencer's online wellness circle.
Bingo. It is spiritual bypassing, weaponized for profit.
Wow. Okay, we have thoroughly diagnosed the problem here. Our brains are using Stone Age tricks, the halo effect, zero-sum bias, proportionality bias, to navigate a digital world that is actively monetizing our panic.
That's a great summary.
So how do we actually survive the high-pressure modern world without completely losing our minds?
Well, we have to fundamentally alter how we consume information, and that really starts with understanding the recency illusion.
The recency illusion.
Yes. This is our amygdala's tendency to treat anything novel or new as a mortal threat.
The amygdala being the brain's emotional alarm system, the part that handles the fight or flight response.
Yes. Remember that rustling in the bushes for our ancestors?
Right, the tiger or the wind.
The amygdala doesn't care if the rustling is a tiger or just the wind. It floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline just in case. And today, the rustling bush is a breaking news notification on your phone.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
An MIT study actually showed that false news travels 6 times faster on Twitter than true stories, simply because falsehoods are highly novel. They are surprising.
The truth is often kind of boring.
Very boring. And that constant stream of novel, alarming information keeps our brains locked in a perpetual state of fight or flight.
But, I mean, if the news is constantly breaking, how do we quiet the alarm? Because I just ignore the news. Aren't I just burying my head in the sand?
It's not about ignorance, it's about strategic processing. We can actually borrow a framework from management consultant Peter Drucker here. He created the urgent versus important matrix.
Okay.
It's a tool originally designed to improve decision-making in high-pressure work environments, but it applies perfectly to our daily digital diets. You basically categorize incoming information into 4 distinct boxes.
Okay, walk us through the 4 quadrants. How does this work in practice?
Quadrant 1 is urgent and important. Think of a genuine crisis at work or a family emergency. You handle it immediately.
Makes sense.
Quadrant 2 is important but not urgent. This is long-term strategic planning, deep reading, or relationship building. You schedule dedicated time for this.
Right.
Quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. A sudden meeting you aren't really needed for, or say, a breaking news alert about a celebrity scandal. You delegate or minimize these. And finally, Quadrant 4 is not urgent and not important. This is endless doom scrolling. You just delete this entirely.
Okay, so if I apply this to the news cycle that's keeping me in fight or flight, a lot of breaking news feels urgent because of the alert on my phone, right? But is it actually important for me to know this very second?
Exactly. What if you delayed reading the news until tomorrow morning? Or even reserved it for a long-form catch-up at the end of the week?
Oh, that's interesting.
By doing that, you physically move the information from the emotional reactive amygdala to the logical prefrontal cortex. You filter out the noise and only engage with what truly matters.
Saving an immense amount of cognitive resources.
Exactly.
I love that idea of just taking back control of the timeline. But what happens when you don't even realize you're spiraling? Like, are there ways to spot my own irrational biases before they completely hijack my day?
That's where a brief journaling exercise can be incredibly powerful. At the end of the day, take 5 minutes and write down one moment where you felt an intense, irrational spike of emotion.
Like anger at a coworker's success.
Yes. Or panic over an unanswered text. And then ask yourself, what ancient shortcut was my brain trying to use here? Was I treating life like a zero-sum game? Was I assuming the worst because of the recency illusion?
Right.
Putting it on paper strips the raw emotion away and lets you look at the mechanics of your thought process.
That is such a practical way to catch yourself in the act. But, for those moments when the information overload has already hit and your nervous system is absolutely fried, the source material offers a really concrete physical grounding technique to break the spell.
Yes, it's deeply necessary when the mind won't quiet down. What is the physical intervention they mention?
The author talks about escaping a period of severe, nauseating anxiety by taking a solo trip to the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Yes.
And the science totally backs this up. The Journal of Environmental Psychology shows that stepping into nature actively lowers stress hormones
Yeah.
and actually stretches out our perception of time.
It forcibly pulls you out of that hyper-compressed digital frenzy.
Yes. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, here are 3 physical activities you can do to ground yourself. Number 1, take a walk in nature, even just a local city park, and deliberately look at the trees.
Love that.
Number 2, go outside at night and look up at the stars. And number 3, physically hold the hand of a loved one.
Very tangible.
Yeah, these actions remind your ancient brain of scale. They prove to your nervous system that the physical world is vastly bigger than a glowing screen, and that a terrifying headline in your feed is not actually a predator waiting in the bushes.
Those are fantastic, and they lead right into the ultimate actionable step for reducing cognitive bias, which is supported by a study by the Royal Society. It's a concept called metacognition.
Which literally translates to thinking about thinking.
Exactly. It's the simple act of noticing your own thought processes in real time. When you feel that visceral urge to panic Google a rival's failures or elevate a politician to godhood or, buy a manifestation course because you feel lost, just pause.
Just take a breath.
Right. Recognize that your brain is just a tired organ desperately searching for a shortcut. You don't have to judge the thought, just observe it. That awareness alone is your absolute best defense against misinformation and dogmatic thinking, because it puts the rational part of your brain back in the driver's seat.
So, what does this all mean for us? Let's synthesize everything we've covered today. If you take anything away from this deep dive, let it be this. Our brains are incredibly weird, beautifully flawed, ancient machines.
You really are.
They are just doing their absolute best to keep us alive in a totally unnatural, hyperspeed digital landscape. So realizing that you fall for the halo effect or sunk cost fallacies or zero-sum anxieties doesn't make you stupid or broken.
Not at all. It just makes you biologically human.
And knowing that gives you permission to show yourself and the people around you a whole lot more grace. Like the next time you catch yourself acting completely irrationally, you can just say, that's just my Stone Age brain trying to save me from a tiger.
I think that is the perfect takeaway. If I can leave everyone with one final thought to mull over today, please do.
Our modern productivity culture constantly demands that we act fast. It demands that we have an immediate opinion on every trending topic, that we know everything, and that we are constantly optimizing ourselves for peak performance.
It is exhausting just hearing that list. It's an impossible standard.
It really is. But if our minds are fundamentally flawed and so easily tricked by these ancient biases, what if the ultimate rebellion right now is to intentionally embrace being ordinary?
Wow, embracing the ordinary is a form of rebellion.
Yeah. What if tomorrow you give yourself permission to be beautifully, blissfully below average at half the things you do?
I love that.
What if you let go of the desperate need to optimize, to judge every person you see online, to figure out exactly what every piece of random information means for your cosmic destiny, and you just let yourself live? I think my brain just let out a massive sigh of relief. From understanding the Mentos and Diet Coke explosions in our heads to finding genuine peace in the ordinary, this has been an incredibly enlightening journey. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Go look at some trees, write down your biases, give yourself some grace, and we'll catch you next time.